Welcome back to the Clack Shack, and tonight I'm going to be taking a 16 by 16 mirror that I picked up for like $6, and I'm going to be turning into one of those really cool backlit engraved mirror signs that you see everybody making. I've made several of the mirrors, I've engraved several of them, but I haven't done one for myself yet, and so I'm going to do one with my logo on it for my booths and to hang out in the shack here. And I'm just going to kind of take you along and walk you through some of the steps and maybe encourage anybody if they want to try one to be able to jump on that and go ahead and tackle it. So stick around for a few minutes, be right back. All right, guys, this mirror picked up at Walmart. It wasn't but like $6. The first step is to get the glass out of the frame that it came in. It had a little cheap frame on it, and I had to cut the paper off the back and kind of take a utility knife and cut the hot glue that they use to hold everything together and get the frame off of it. And I will say be very careful with that because they don't use the thickest glass on the market for these things and they break kind of easy. Luckily I didn't break this one, but if you could find somewhere to get the actual mirror without a frame on it and get it at a reasonable rate, that'd be great. But I have searched everywhere and just can't find a piece of glass that's square and a mirror that I really want to pay what they're asking for it. So I'm sticking with the Walmart ones for right now. They're like $6. So once you get the glass out of the frame and you've got it I mean, you could do it in the frame if you prefer, if you want to leave the frame on there. I wanted the frame off of this one, and I'll go ahead and explain that. The reason is because, as you know, I have my own sawmill and I have access to my own wood, and I've got some leftover poplar that I had left over from building some coffee tables, and it's the right size to be able to build me a frame, have room to put the LED lights in it, and still keep it lightweight. So I'm going to be using some of that poplar that I had left over to build a frame of my own and put me some LED lights in it to backlight this thing. So, but if you want to leave the frame on it, by all means you can. You just have to expose the back. There's the silver coating on the back that you're going to want to get to. I recommend cleaning the mirror with alcohol or some type of mild cleaner to try to get all the glue and stuff like that off of it. And one thing that you have to remember too on your image, when you're doing your image, whatever your image looks like on here, you're gonna have to flip that because you got to do like a mirror image of it. So just remember that when you're doing it, and that way you won't have a problem with the image not being right. So you're gonna actually have it written backwards on the burn surface. In Lightburn, there's a little triangle button up top that shows, flip mirror image the other way. So you're going to want to use that once you get your image in. The thing that I have started doing with these mirrors, and one of the guys that watched my videos actually helped me out with this. I didn't know that there was actually a tool line assignment on the presets on Lightburn. But since somebody pointed that out to me, I have really started using that thing a lot, and it is very handy. It's going to be the T1 and T2 at the very end right there. Since I started using those, it's made my life a lot easier. So I don't know who you were that pointed that out to me, but I appreciate it. Like I said, I've only been operating Lightburn now for about 6 months, and I'm still finding things that it can do to make my life easier that I didn't know about. So get the mirror, get it lined up. And one thing that I will take the opportunity to point out is if you're running my interchangeable jig adapter, it actually works really well too, to where you can butt the mirror up against the little feet to make sure you've got it square. So you don't have to have a jig necessarily, but you can kind of butt it up against that and make sure it's square. It's going to have a little bit of your mirror is going to be hanging off your workspace, but that's fine because when you're putting it in the frame, or if it's in a frame, that part of the mirror is not going to be usable anyway because it's going to be hidden by the frame. I have sprayed for ants and they keep coming back in here. So if you see ants scurrying around, I apologize, but I sprayed as much as I could and they're still with me. So what I'm gonna do, this burn is gonna take an excessively long time. So I'm gonna get it started and I'm gonna step away. If it's not too noisy in here, I may try to walk you through how I built the frame and got the lights put in it while it's going, but then we'll come back. So, but I'm gonna go ahead and put my, got my image up. The power setting that I'm gonna be using on this one is gonna be 120 speed, 100% power, and I've got it set to a feel, and I've turned on the continual power mode because I kind of want that frosting to where you can't necessarily see through it, but light will pass through it. So that's the kind of the look I'm going for. And just to repeat that, in case anybody missed it, it's going to be 120 millimeters per second speed and 100% power on a feel. So that's the settings I'm going to be using. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing fired up and get it going. And then, like I said, I'll probably break the video up and go show you some other stuff, and then we'll come back. Hopefully when this thing's done, I'll be able to put it all together and show you what it looks like. So here we go. Got to power up my X tool there. I'm gonna go ahead and rehome. And what I've did is I've got that tool line, basically I used my camera and got that tool line lined up with the edge of the mirror. And then I did what little bit of fine tuning I had to do to get it to frame. And so now I've got it to where it frames, and you'll notice it's running right down the edge of the mirror on the left and right. And then I've also added enough distance to the top and bottom so that they're even. And I used the center utility to make sure that my graphic was centered inside my framing box. So everything should be in the center, or at least close enough to where you can't tell. And we're gonna move forward and get this thing burning. This speed actually moves pretty good, but this is a lot of real estate to cover. So it's gonna take a little while. And I don't know what this stuff is made out of, but it is nauseous. So I'm gonna have to turn the vacuum table on. So I'll apologize for it getting noisy, but I really don't want to breathe whatever that is on the back of that mirror. So we're gonna cut the table on. All right guys, while I'm waiting on the mirror to finish engraving, this is the box that I've come up with. And the lights are the little LED strip lights, pretty much the cheapest set that you can find. And I'll drop a link in the description so that if you want to try to get some of them, they're around 10 bucks a set. I mean, you can get some more expensive ones, but I opted for the cheapest ones I could find. They are battery powered or USB powered. And the thing that I like about them is when I go to an arts and crafts show, or if I want to hang this thing outside for whatever reason, I can just put a battery pack with it and it'll run. It also has a little remote control so that you can change the settings. I'm sure y'all are familiar with those things, but that's the frame I'll be using. And it's going to be made from poplar wood. And the reason I used poplar was basically because I had some left over from a coffee table that I built. And poplar is real plentiful where I live in Alabama. There's a lot of it around. It's easy to come by. It saws really easy on the sawmill. And then it's really friendly with the saws in the shop, sands real well. And you can pretty much stain this any color you want and it'll take the stain. And it has a nice appearance to it. I've decided just to leave this rough to try not to make it too refined. But the basic build of the box is there's 4 16-inch pieces of this poplar, and it's got 45-degree angles on all the corners. And on the inside, I've got a cut that I cut with my table saw that's just wide enough to hold the glass. All right, before I got interrupted by the phone, let me get back to where I was. The way I've got this built, the top piece, I'm gonna make it to where the top piece is easily taken off and put back. And the reason is if I want to put another mirror in there, if I want to change the logo, or if I accidentally break it, I don't want to have to tear this thing apart to get in and out of it. And so the top is simply going to have 2 screws holding it on. I glued the other corners. I glued those with the Titebond wood glue, And I use this on all of my wood building projects, whether it's cutting boards, furniture, or whatever. And I really like this stuff. So if you start to do one of those, you may want to look at getting some glue. And I glued those and shot some staples in it, and then put the top on. And the back is simply a piece of the 1/4 inch Luan that I use to cut out my small projects. And I wanted to try to keep this thing light, so that, like I said, I'm going to be taking it to art shows, and when I'm setting up a tent or a vendor at an event or something like that, I'm going to be taking it and hanging it inside my tent. So I didn't want anything too big and heavy that was going to, weigh that little flimsy tent down when I set it up. So that's basically all I'm going to do to it. I did go ahead and sand down the inside of the Luan, and I spray painted it white. And my hopes is that I've got all the lights around the perimeter here, and my hopes is that the white paint will cause it to reflect the light back through the mirror. Not knocking the way anybody else does these, but I have actually seen some to where when the lights flash, you can see the bulb through the burn. That's not the look I'm going for. I actually want it to light up, but I don't want to be able to see the LEDs. I just want to be able to see the glow off of the LEDs, so it's a good, smooth, even light through the whole logo, and I don't have any like real heavy, bright spots. Now, whether that works or not, we'll see. We may have to go back and redo the lights. Thus, the reason the top is removable. But I'm thinking it's going to work the way I want it to, and so we'll go from there. But I'll check back with you as soon as this thing gets through burning, and we'll try to get that thing slid in there and see what it looks like. Alright guys, that is exactly what I wanted it to look like. So looks like that part's a success. Now to see if I can turn the lights to a different setting without having to take it apart here. Well, it's responding to the remote. There we go. So I'm thinking we done good, guys. Let me see if I can get this camera on down there a little bit more for you. All right, there's our finished product, guys. It worked exactly as I had hoped. I got some lightly frosted glass. The mirror back has been successfully removed from it. And as a bonus, my remote works without having to go into the box. So I can change to the different settings of the lights. Like I said, when I built it, my plan was to be able to change the settings without having to go into the box. And I also wanted it to be to where you can't see where the LEDs are. I wanted the whole sign to light up like it's doing with that little bit of fog to it there.